My uncle worked as a forest ranger for 32 years. Before my first night patrol, he gave me one warning: if the forest calls your name, do not answer. I laughed. He did not. The animals make sounds, I said. It is not an animal. That night, I patrolled with another ranger named Tim. At around 1 a.m., we heard a child crying beyond the marked trail. We called the control room. No children had been reported missing. Still, we followed the sound. After 10 minutes, it stopped. Then a voice came from the trees behind us. Tim. He froze. The voice sounded exactly like his wife. Tim, please come here. I grabbed his arm. Your wife is at home. He nodded, but his face had gone pale. The voice called again. This time, it sounded closer. He covered his ears. We returned to our vehicle without investigating. My uncle was waiting at the station. When we told him what happened, he asked one question: did either of you answer? We said no. He looked relieved. Tim whispered, I almost did. My uncle turned towards him. Almost is enough sometimes. 3 days later, Tim disappeared. His vehicle was found beside an old fire road. The driver's door was open, and his boots were placed neatly on the ground. A line of bare footprints led into the forest. Search teams followed them for 6 kilometers. Then the prints stopped in the middle of a clearing. At the center stood a tree covered with names, hundreds of them. Some had been carved recently. Others appeared decades old. Tim's name was near the bottom. The carving looked fresh. That evening, we heard his radio transmission. Control, I found the missing people. We tried to respond. My uncle grabbed the radio from my hand. Do not speak. Tim continued. They are standing between the trees. Static crackled. Then he began naming rangers who had disappeared over the years. Some had been missing since before Tim was born. Finally, he said my name. My uncle switched off every radio in the station. That night, something walked around the building. It tapped on the windows. It scratched the walls. Then Tim's voice came from outside. Open the door. I am freezing. Nobody moved. At sunrise, we found bare footprints surrounding the station. There were hundreds of them, all facing towards the building. A week later, a hiker found Tim alive beside a highway. He looked unharmed. He remembered entering the forest, but nothing after that. His wife took him home. Everyone celebrated. My uncle refused to see him. He answered, he said. How do you know? Because the forest does not return people. 2 nights later, Tim called me. His voice sounded normal. He asked me to come over because he had remembered something important. When I arrived, the front door was open. His wife was sitting at the kitchen table. She was crying silently. Tim stood in the corner, facing the wall. What happened? I asked. His wife pointed towards him. He has been standing like that since sunset. Tim slowly turned around. His mouth opened. Instead of words, I heard wind moving through leaves. Then voices began speaking from inside him. Men, women, children. Every voice called my name. I ran from the house. Tim disappeared again that night. His wife was never found. Years later, I became head ranger. Every new recruit receives the same warning. Do not follow crying beyond the trail. Do not approach trees covered in names. And if the forest calls you, never answer. Last night, during patrol, I heard my uncle's voice. He died 6 years ago. He whispered from behind the trees. You answered me once when you were a child. I have no memory of that. But this morning, I found my name carved into the tree.